I heard the sound before I saw the mess. The shuffle of pages, the snap of a photo sleeve being torn, soft, yet sharp enough to pull me out of the haze I'd been living in for weeks. It was a Saturday. Gray light leaked through the kitchen. Blinds, the kind of muted morning that makes everything feel heavier than it should. She thought I was still asleep, but I wasn't. I hadn't really slept in days. When I walked in, she didn't look up. She was sitting on the floor, cross-legged in one of my old sweatshirts, next to the trash bin. And there it was, the album. Our album, laid out like a crime scene. Photos of our wedding, sliced in half. My smile severed, her veil in strips. She was tearing out a page when she finally noticed me. "Oh," she said, like I was early for something she meant to do alone. It was taking up space. Just that. No anger, no tears. No explanation. I couldn't speak. I just stared at the pieces of what used to be the happiest day of our lives. The beach in Santa Barbara. The pale blue sky. The way her hand trembled when she said "I do." I wanted to scream, to ask her what the hell she was doing, but I didn't. Instead, I walked past her, poured a cup of coffee with hands I didn't recognize as my own, and went back upstairs. She didn't follow. She didn't say another word. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, the mug burning my fingers untouched. It wasn't just the album. It was the silence. The suffocating distance between us that had been growing for months, maybe years, like a crack in a windshield no one bothers to fix, until the whole thing shatters. We used to be good. God, we were good. We laughed at the same dumb commercials. We used to slow dance in the kitchen when the radio played anything close to Sinatra. I still remember the smell of her hair when she came home from her morning runs. Lavender and sweat and something I used to call home. But now, she wouldn't even let me touch her. She flinched at kindness like it burned. And I stopped asking why, that night, after she fell asleep, wrapped in a blanket on the couch like a guest in her own house. I went back downstairs. The trash was still there, the photos half buried under a pizza box and an empty bottle of Pinot. I pulled them out gently, like they could still feel pained out my fingers brushed against something, soft, folded, different. It was a note, tucked behind a photo of us laughing at the reception. I unfolded it slowly, not sure if I had the right. The handwriting was hers, but the words. I can't live with this secret anymore. Just that. No name, no date. 7 words written in ink that had smudged, like maybe it had been folded and unfolded more times than I'd ever know. I read it again, and again, and something in my chest cracked wide open. This wasn't just anger. This wasn't just a breakup in slow motion. This was something else. Something she'd been hiding long before she ever started pulling away. Sat there, surrounded by torn photographs and the faint scent of her perfume, still clinging to the pages. And I knew. This wasn't the end of our marriage. It was the beginning of a truth I wasn't ready for. We met in Seattle, 6 years ago, under gray skies and bitter coffee. She had this way of talking with her hands, fast, animated, like she had to keep up with the thoughts running ahead of her mouth. I was the quiet one, steady, a little broken. In ways I didn't understand back then. But she noticed me. Not in a loud, overwhelming way. In a gentle, disarming way that made me feel like I'd been seen for the first time in years. She said I had a weathered face. I remember that. Like a man who'd survived more storms than he could count. I didn't tell her she was one of them. Not then. We fell fast. Moved in together after 4 months. Married in less than 2 years. It was reckless maybe, but it felt right. We built a little life in Portland. Modest house, a dog we named Tucker, and dreams of starting a family. She wanted a girl. Said she'd name her Nora after her grandmother. She used to talk about it like it was a certainty painting. The nursery soft green, not pink, because Nora deserves choices. We tried until the trying hurt. 2 miscarriages. A year of fertility treatments. Another year of pretending we were fine. After the second loss, she changed. She didn't cry, not even once. She folded the tiny clothes we'd bought and packed them into a box labeled winter. When I asked what that meant, she just said, "Some seasons never end." I didn't understand her then. Maybe I still don't. That was 3 years ago. Since then, our conversations grew shorter. Her touch colder. And that sparkle in her eyes, the one that used to dance even when we argued, faded into something I couldn't reach. I blamed myself, of course. I thought maybe she resented me. For the timing, the jeans, the silence. Maybe I didn't hold her the right way when she broke. Maybe I didn't break loudly enough for her to feel understood. Looking back, there were signs, moments that didn't quite fit. Like the time she came home late from book club and smelled faintly of bourbon, a scent I knew she hated. Or the way she jumped when her phone buzzed and never left it face up anymore. Or how she avoided my eyes when I mentioned Nora. Little things, subtle, quiet cracks, but I didn't push. Because I was afraid of what I'd find. Because part of me believed love meant looking the other way, at least sometimes. There's this memory that haunts me. A night not long after her second miscarriage. She stood in the backyard under the porch light, barefoot on the cold concrete, smoking a cigarette she'd found in the back of my drawer. She never smoked. I watched her from the kitchen, the way her shoulders rose and fell like she was carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken things. I wanted to go out there, to wrap her in a blanket and tell her she didn't have to hold it. All alone. But I didn't. I just watched her disappear into the dark. And I think, in some way, that's when I started losing her dot. So when I found the note, when I read those 7 words, "I can't live with this secret anymore," something shifted. All the pieces I'd been too afraid to examine started clicking into place. This wasn't grief. It wasn't disappointment or distance. It was guilt. And whatever it was, she couldn't live with anymore. It had been with her for a long, long time. The next morning, she made eggs like nothing happened. Like she hadn't desecrated the symbol of our vows just 24 hours earlier. I sat at the table, watching her pour coffee, her hand trembling ever so slightly as she handed me the cup. "I'm meeting with Claire later," she said. Claire, her co-worker, her alibi, her escape hatch. I nodded, pretending to sip. "Sure. Take your time," she smiled. But it wasn't real. It was the kind of smile you wear when you're still deciding how much longer you can keep lying. I knew then what I had to do. Not scream. Not confront. Not accuse. Just watch, wait, listen, and find the truth, piece by piece. The thing about pretending is, once you start, it gets easier. You learn how to fold yourself into silence, how to act like nothing's burning while the whole damn house is ash behind your eyes. That week, I became an expert. Smiles at the right times, casual jokes. A gentle touch on her shoulder when I passed by. But underneath, I was unraveling. I started to notice things, not just the big, obvious shifts, but the details that never used to be there. A second phone charger tucked behind the knitstand. A strange name on our credit card bill, Mercer Hotel, 2 towns over. A receipt from a bookstore she'd never mentioned. I took pictures. I made mental notes. I didn't know what I was looking for yet, but I could feel it, like the faint smell of smoke before you see the flames. The truth was close, and then there were the flashbacks. Not dramatic ones, just flickers. Moments that had felt harmless at the time, but now, under this new light, felt heavier. Like the trip we took to Big Sur. She cried the whole second night and said it was just hormones. Or the way she avoided photos lately, even at her sister's wedding, like being captured. Made her fragile. Or how she once whispered in her sleep, "I didn't mean for it to happen." I remembered that one. I'd been half asleep. I asked her what she said, and she turned away. Nothing, just a dream. But her voice cracked, and I didn't press now. I wish I had. That week, I checked the trash every night. I know how that sounds. Desperate, paranoid, maybe pathetic. But sometimes the only way to find the truth is in the things people try to bury. And on the third night, I found it. A crumpled envelope, no address. Inside, a note, not written by her this time. It was from a man. No name, just a short clipped message. I thought we agreed. I've kept my side. Don't make me reach out again. I stared at those words like they were a weapon. Because they were. She hadn't just thrown away our wedding album. She had thrown away her peace of mind. Someone out there had leverage. And she was terrified. It wasn't just an affair. It was something worse. Something dangerous. Something she was being blackmailed over. That night, when she came home late, said she'd been with Claire again. I just nodded. I made you tea, I said. She smiled, grateful, exhausted. We sat on the couch in silence, the dog curled between us like Switzerland. She took one sip, then two. And then she said softly, "You've been quiet lately." I looked at her, at the lines on her face, the tired beneath her eyes. And I said the most honest thing I could in that moment. "I've been thinking a lot." She nodded, but her eyes didn't meet mine. That's when I knew. She felt the walls closing in, even if she didn't know how much I already knew. And in her own way, she was waiting for it to fall apart. I didn't ask questions. Not yet, because the worst lies aren't told with words. They're told with omissions. And I was ready to listen to what she wouldn't say. So I started digging. Quietly, methodically. And what I found next changed everything. The moment everything changed was quiet. No crash, no fight, no screaming match under a thunderstorm. It was just me, alone in the guest room, holding her old laptop. She never used it anymore, or so I thought. But the charger was warm when I found it, the lid slightly ajar. Curiosity isn't innocent when you're already halfway broken. I opened it. Password was the same, Nora 2020. That hit me harder than I expected. She hadn't changed it. There was a folder buried deep in the documents, with a string of random letters as a title. Almost like it was meant to be overlooked. Inside were emails, screenshots, and a single video file. I didn't want to click. I hovered my finger over the trackpad for too long. But when your heart already suspects the worst, the truth doesn't feel like betrayal. It feels like confirmation. The video was dated 2 years ago. A hotel room, dim, her voice, unmistakable, laughing softly behind the camera. And then, a man appeared. He wasn't touching her. Not yet. But the way she looked at him, it was the way she used to look at me. I paused it, closed the lid, stared at the blank screen like it had cursed me. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was grief, not just over what she did, but when she did. That was the year she stopped trying. The year she told me she couldn't keep going through losses. The year I thought we were both grieving the same thing, but now, I wasn't sure if we'd been grieving the same anything. I felt something inside me fracture in a way that wouldn't heal clean. I didn't cry, I didn't rage. I just sat in that small, dim room with the scent of her perfume still on the sheets, and let the numbness spread. The next morning, she acted normal. Made coffee. Kissed me on the cheek like a wife who still belonged. But I noticed the slight hesitation, the way her lips paused just a second before they touched my skin. Like she didn't know if she deserved to. I let her go to work. I called in sick, then I printed the emails, all of them. Every vague threat, every time-stamped lie. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I placed them in an envelope and tucked them into my coat. Then I drove 2 hours north. To the return address. On one of the digital receipts I'd found buried in her email drafts. Mercer and Grant, LLP, law firm. Downtown Olympia. I didn't know what I expected to find, but I didn't expect him. He was standing outside when I arrived, smoking, scrolling his phone. I recognized him, not from life, from the video, and something inside me went quiet. Not cold, quiet. That's when I knew I was going to destroy him. But not with fists, not with rage, not with truth. Carefully placed, one step at a time. I didn't speak to him that day. Didn't even let him see me. I just took a photo. Watched the way he adjusted his tie before stepping back inside. Then I drove home. That night, she was already asleep when I returned. But she stirred when I climbed into bed beside her. "I thought you were working late," she murmured. I kissed her shoulder, softly. Change of plans. I lay there, wide awake, heart pulsing with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. The quiet. Before a storm of my own design. And in the dark, I whispered one word, not to her, but to myself. Soon, because the truth wasn't done speaking. And neither was I. I didn't eat much the next day. Didn't sleep much the night before. But I wasn't tired. When something inside you snaps into focus after years of blur, it doesn't matter how exhausted your body is, your mind wakes up, sharp and merciless. I started with her journals. She kept them tucked away in the closet in a shoebox labeled running gear. They were old, full of recipes, dreams, workout routines, reflections, but one of them was newer. Black leather cover, no title. First entry was dated the week after our second miscarriage. Her words, they were full of pain, but not all of it was mine to carry. Some of it was poisoned. He said no one would believe me. He said he'd make it look like I wanted it. I let it happen the second time, and I don't know what that makes me. I stopped breathing. Read it again. Then again. This wasn't an affair. It wasn't betrayal in the way I had assumed. It was something darker. She had been coerced, manipulated. And somewhere along the way, she gave in. Not out of desire, but out of hopelessness. And the man in the video. He wasn't just a mistake. He was a predator. I looked through the rest of the journal. The last entry was dated 6 months ago. He asked for money again. Says he has copies. I wish I'd told you. I'm sorry I let it go this far, but you loved me too much to know the truth. You deserved better than this version of me. That's when I understood the note I found in the trash. Not a confession, a surrender. She hadn't just thrown away the album. She was trying to erase the version of us that no longer felt real to her. Because underneath it, buried in layers of guilt and fear, she didn't believe she deserved to be loved anymore. And somehow, even with everything I'd found, I didn't hate her. I hated him. So I made a plan. The next day, I contacted a friend of mine, Marcus, a defense attorney I met years ago when I was working logistics for a nonprofit. I showed him the emails, the video, the note from the trash. I didn't give names, just enough to explain what I needed. He didn't ask questions. Just gave me a folder, in case things escalate, he said. Document everything. Every threat. Every encounter. You're not just trying to protect yourself now. I knew what he meant. She wasn't the same woman I married, but she wasn't a villain. She was drowning. And if I wanted any part of her to survive this, I had to throw the rope myself. So I reached out. To him, I used a burner number, pretended to be. Set a meeting, a final cash drop, as he liked to call it. He agreed, same hotel. Saturday, 4 p.m., that morning. I watched her get ready to leave for her sister's baby shower. She stood in front of the mirror, fixing her earrings. Her hands trembled. And when our eyes met in the reflection, something in her face softened. I feel like I'm losing myself, she whispered. I stepped behind her, placed my hands on her waist. You're not lost, I said. You're just carrying too much, she nodded. But I knew she didn't believe me. Not yet. That afternoon, I drove to the hotel. I didn't bring cash. I brought a recorder. And a camera. He showed up wearing the same smirk I'd seen in the video. He didn't recognize me, not at first, but when I spoke, his smile froze. Remember me now, I said. He took a step back. You're her husband. I replied. Still might be. Depends on what happens next. He laughed. I didn't hurt her. I held up the journal, the folder. The emails. You did more than hurt her. His face changed then. Not fear, calculation. Like he was weighing his chances, but I was already ahead of him. Everything was documented, time-stamped, stored. Sent. This ends today, I told him. No more money. No more threats. You walk away and pray I don't take this to the police. He sneered. You don't have the balls. I leaned in. My wife thought the same thing. Until I found the note. I left him standing there. Didn't look back. Back home, she was already there. Sitting on the floor in the living room. The album, what was left of it, spread out around her like a puzzle she didn't know how to solve. She looked up when I walked in. Tears in her eyes, no defenses left. Just a woman broken by shame. I'm sorry, she said, her voice cracked open. I didn't know how to tell you. I knelt beside her. Took her hand. You don't have to tell me everything, I said. But I need to know if you still want to fight for this. For us, she nodded, once, and I felt the shift, small, but real. The beginning of the end of the silence. We didn't fix everything overnight. Real life doesn't work that way, not after that kind of damage. But we started talking. Really talking. No more polite nods or safe silences. No more dodging the weight between us. She told me everything. How it began, why she didn't stop it, the fear, the guilt. The night she sat in the car outside our house, wondering if she should just keep driving. She cried the whole time. And I listened. Not like a husband desperate to save his marriage, but like a man finally ready to see the woman in front of him, without expectations, without pride. That night, we sat in bed facing each other, knees touching under the blankets. And she asked, "Do you still love me?" Her voice was small, like she didn't think she deserved a yes, and I told her the truth. I never stopped, but I love you differently now. She flinched a little, but I held her hand. I used to love the version of you who smiled through everything, who made plans and never showed cracks. Now I love the version that finally let me see where it hurts. We held each other, and for the first time in years, there was no weight between us. Only breath, skin, presence. She started therapy. So did I, separately, at first. Together, eventually. We rebuilt slow. Dinner by dinner. Conversation by conversation, she told her sister, then her mother. We kept the law firm out of it, for now, but we saved everything, in case it needed to go further. One night, maybe 3 months later, I came home to find her in the attic. Dusty floor, old boxes. She was sitting with the album, or what remained of it. She'd taped the pieces back together. Not perfectly, but carefully. She looked up. I know it's ruined, she said. I walked over, sat beside her. Ran my fingers over the torn, reattached photo of our first dance. It's honest now, I said. Messy, damaged, but still here. She laughed softly, then kissed my cheek. That moment, quiet, imperfect, meant more to me than our wedding day ever did, because this time, we weren't pretending. Months passed, the dog got older. We planted a small garden in the backyard, no talk of children yet. But something was blooming, trust, maybe even hope. I don't know what our future looks like, but I know we earned it. Not the glossy storybook version, the real kind, the kind made of scars and choices and truth. And that's what I hold on to now, not the album, not the past, but the fact that we survived it together, even when it felt impossible. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for your time. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel, it really helps. Click the video on the screen, and I'll see you there.